Let's have a look at the Yorkville EX1 and the EX2, also known as the Excursion 1000 and the Excursion 2000. So first the EX1, that's these. The lighting's not so great, so I apologize for that. Let me see if I can get it. There we go. So these are 150 watt each, 8-inch woofers, a horn, pole mountable, carpeted. They did offer these in carpeted and with the urethane finish, but these are the carpeted. And the interesting thing about this system, one of the many interesting things about these systems, is that the mid-highs, the speakers, are not powered, they're passive, but they're only meant to work with the system itself. So the amps for all three of the sub and the speakers are in the sub itself, and I'll show you the back in a sec. So these are tiny little speakers. They sound great, they're clear. They're not as clear as the newer Yorkville products. I think this product's around 10 to 15 years old by this point. This is December 2018 that I'm doing this review, so I really like this system, but I'll go over what I think are the ups and downs and all arounds of each of the two, and I'll compare them. And yeah, so they take speakon cables which come into the sub, and right now we're talking about the EX1, the smaller version. So this is a 600 watt sub. It's got a 15-inch woofer in it. It weighs around 60 or 70 pounds, I can't remember. And let me pull this out so we can have a look at the back. Kind of heavy. There we go. So, to me, the sub sounds a lot like, sorry for the camera work there. The sub sounds a lot like a 720p to me. The LS 720p or the NX 720p. It's decent. It doesn't go as low as an 18-inch, and hey, why would it? It's not an 18-inch. It can't go that low. It's really good. It doesn't satisfy the bass monster in me, but I'm moving toward this system for now, and I'm offloading my EX2, and that's because the EX2 is just too heavy, and this is a lot more portable. So I'm going to have to sacrifice some of the deep sub bass for portability. Just because I don't want to cart around the EX2 sub, which is 130 pounds, which is crazy. So here we can see the controls, the inputs. It has 1/4-inch TRS balanced inputs, and it also has XLR inputs. Of course, XLR is superior. You can see that it has the gains there. It has a built-in crossover and limiter, like I said, so it's perfectly tuned to work with the speakers. So all the frequency is represented correctly. And the limiter in it is really good. I've pushed it to the point where it was hitting its limit on all three actually, and it doesn't distort. What it does is just limit it before it starts to distort. So it's a fail-proof system. I really like that. These were made to pack up and roll around on a dolly. That's why you see these knobs here. The mid-highs rest on this when it's taken apart, and it's pretty convenient. I can see how you might want to use that, but I never did. It's got handles, it's got a pole mount, it's got a handle like that on the bottom as well, so if there are two people carrying it around, it's a little more convenient. So it's like I said, it's like a 720 this, and I find the mid-highs a little flat. They're not bad. They say it can do up to 300 people, this EX1, a 300 person crowd. I don't know, I've never tried that, so it's hard for me to say. Most of what I do is in my basement here, and I have the occasional yoga gig or something like that, and I do want to get more gigs happening out. So again, that's why I'm going with the EX1 for now instead of the EX2. Ideally, I would go with the new Parasource series, because they're a lot smaller, a lot more powerful, but they're also a lot more expensive. So for now, this is good for me. It's going to cut the mustard. So let's go on to the EX2. Now this is a beast, this EX2 sub. Same kind of setup. All the sub and the speakers amps are inside. It's also got the crossover and limiter in it. Basically the same thing as the EX1, just on a bigger scale. But that 18-inch sub is so much better than this 15. Like, I mean, it spanks it. It's so much deeper. I thought maybe it would be a little sloppy for the mid punch, but it's not sloppy at all. But it has that really low rolling bass, and it's just beautiful. And if and when I do offload this EX2, I'm going to miss that bass. And I'm a believer in an 18-inch sub now. I'm totally on board. Like I said, the 15-inch will work for me for now, but the end goal is to get another 18-inch. But one that's smaller than this. This is 130 pounds. And I think it's 37 inches high. I don't know how high it is, but it's a monster, basically. And, you know, it's for the sound quality that comes out of it, that's acceptable for some people. Especially if you put it on a dolly or a hand cart and move it around that way. It's not really an issue. Same kind of controls and configuration on the back, so I won't get into that. Let me just, sorry, tip it up. Tilt it out a bit here. Basic, same configuration. This one's supposed to be good for up to 400 people. I haven't gotten it that far myself either. I haven't taken it to that level. The mid-highs, same thing, they're passive. The amp is in the sub for both of these. Speakon cables, exactly the same, but it has a 12-inch sub, or a 12-inch woofer in it. So of course that's going to give you a different punch, and I do find it sounds different than the EX1. I find it's obviously louder because these are, geez, I think they're 225 watt each instead of the 150 watt of the smaller EX1, and I can definitely tell the difference. What I do find is that these are kind of flat, and they have a bit of air or hiss on them, which isn't a big deal. You're not supposed to be listening to them really at low levels. They're meant for venues and larger application. What I've done here, and it may be a little confusing for the whole review, is these are my Yorkville Coliseum 120Ps, and they are crystal clear. And of course they're very small with the 5-inch woofer, but I find they complement these very well, and they fill in the flatness that I find in these. But I mean, for in a larger setting with a larger crowd, I think that it wouldn't really be necessary to have these, because you'd be cranking these up and it would compensate for that flatness with volume. So that's the EX1 and the EX2. I'm a big fan. They don't make them anymore. They haven't for quite some time. They're bulletproof. A lot of people are concerned about the amps in them failing, and if they do fail, then your whole system's down. Well, if an amp fails in your sub, if it's a self-powered sub and isn't like this, then you don't have a sub either. So I don't really see that concern myself. Plus I don't push it that hard, and Yorkville's solid gear, so I'm not too concerned about that. What I am concerned about is what an 18-inch woofer will give me. And I will be migrating toward, like I said, another 18-inch woofer in the future, sub. But for now, I'll be offloading the EX2 and going with the EX1, just because I want to be able to move it around myself. I can move the EX2 sub around myself, but going up and down stairs, well, mostly upstairs, it's a challenge for me. And I'm not a weak guy, but I'm not the strongest guy, and it is a serious challenge to get this 130-pound sub up the stairs every time I want to take it out of my basement and drag it somewhere for a gig. So the compromise that I'll be making for the lack of deep sub, I think will be worth it for the portability, because it's just going to be that much more easy for me to cart it around. So I hope this helps you. If you see one of these in for your band, or if you're a DJ like me, if you see one around for a good price, go check it out. It is, for the price, you can get the EX1 anywhere from $500 to $900 used, and I don't think you can get that much sound that's been made to work together, like a complete system like this, tuned and made to work together. I don't think you can compare that. A 720 used is somewhere around $600. So, you know, by the time you add another pair of speakers to that, you're probably looking at, you know, $1,000. So I just don't think for the value that you're gonna find anything that compares to this. It's a really amazing system. I think Yorkville did a great job on this, and I'm not sure why they discontinued it. It must not be a very popular idea for people, but for me it's amazing. And same as the EX2, you can get these from $700 to $1,200 used, and good luck finding something comparable. It probably sounds like an LS800 or 801P in terms of the sub that it puts out. And you know, those used are $800 to $1,200 as well, just for those. So, you know, you just can't compare for the value on what these are going for these days on Kijiji or wherever else. And Yorkville is also made in Canada, so getting parts for them is relatively easy. Every Long & McQuaid has parts for them and will actually service them, so there's very little risk in that regard. So I hope this helps you. I hope you found this interesting, and thank you very much for watching. I will catch you later.